And welcome back to my vlog. We're going to venture into another book. I might even read the whole thing. We'll see. Not tonight, of course. I read a little Thomas Troward last night, The I Am. It's from a different book. This book is called The Creative Process in the Individual by T. Troward, 1915. Forward. In the present volume, I have endeavored to set before the reader the conception of a sequence of creative action, commencing with the formation of the globe, and culminating in a vista of infinite possibilities attainable by every one who follows up the right line for their unfoldment. I have endeavored to show that, starting with certain incontrovertible scientific facts, all these things logically follow, and that therefore, however far these speculations may carry us beyond our past experience, they nowhere break the thread of an intelligible connection of cause and effect. I do not, however, offer the suggestions here put forward in any other light than that of purely speculative reasoning. Nevertheless, no advance in any direction can be made except by speculative reasoning going back to the first principles of things, which we do know, and thence deducing the conditions under which the same principles might be carried further and made to produce results hitherto unknown. It is to this method of thought that we owe all the advantages of civilization, from matches and post offices to motor cars and aeroplanes. And we may therefore be encouraged to hope such speculations as the present may not be without their ultimate value. Relying on the maxim that principle is not bound by precedent, we should not limit our expectations of the future, and if our speculations lead us to the conclusion that we have reached a point where we are not only able, but also required by the law of our own being to take a more active part in our personal evolution than heretofore, this discovery will afford us a new outlook upon life and widen our horizon with fresh interests and brightening hopes. If the thoughts here suggested should help any reader to clear some mental obstacles from his path, the writer will feel that he has not written to no purpose. Only each reader must think out these suggestions for himself. No writer or lecturer can convey an idea into the minds of his audience. He can only put it before them, and what they will make of it depends entirely upon themselves. Assimilation is a process which no one can carry out for us. To the kindness of my readers on both sides of the Atlantic, and in Australia and New Zealand, I commend this little volume, not, indeed, without a deep sense of its many shortcomings, but at the same time encouraged by the generous indulgence extended to my previous books. T.T., June 1910. Chapter 1, The Starting Point. It is an old saying that, quote, order is heaven's first law, end quote. And like many other old sayings, it contains a much deeper philosophy than appears immediately on the surface. Getting things into a better order is the great secret of progress, and we are now able to fly through the air, not because the laws of nature have altered, but because we have learnt to arrange things in the right order to produce this result. The things themselves had existed from the beginning of the world, but what was wanting was the introduction of a personal factor which, by an intelligent perception of the possibilities contained in the laws of nature, should be able to bring into working reality ideas which previous generations would have laughed at as the absurd fancies of an unbalanced mind. The lesson to be learnt from the practical aviation of the present day is that of the triumph of principle over precedent, of the working out of an idea to its logical conclusions in spite of the accumulated testimony of all past experience to the contrary. And with such a notable example before us, we can say that it is futile to inquire whether, by the same method, we may not unlock still more important secrets and gain some knowledge of the unseen causes which are at the back of external and visible conditions, and then, by bringing these unseen causes into a better order, make practical working realities of possibilities which at present seem but fantastic dreams. It is at least worthwhile taking a preliminary canter over the course. And this is all that this little volume professes to attempt. Yet this may be sufficient to show the lay of the ground. Now, the first thing in any investigation is to have some idea of what you are looking for, to have at least some notion of the general direction in which to go, just as you would not go up a tree to find fish, though you would for birds' eggs. Well, the general direction in which we all want to go is that of getting more out of life than we have ever got out of it. We want to be more alive in ourselves and to get all sorts of improved conditions in our environment. However happily any of us may be circumstanced, we can all conceive something still better, or at any rate we should like to make our present good permanent. And since we shall find as our studies advance that the prospect of increasing possibilities keeps opening out more and more widely before us, we may say that what we are in search of is the secret of getting more out of life in a continually progressive degree. This means that what we are looking for is something personal, and that it is to be obtained by producing conditions which do not yet exist. In other words, it is nothing less than the exercise of a certain creative power in the sphere of our own particular world. So then, what we want is to introduce our own personal factor into the realm of unseen causes. This is a big thing, and if it is possible at all, it must be by some sequence of cause and effect. In this sequence, it is our object to discover. The law of cause and effect is one we can never get away from, but by carefully following it up, we may find that it will lead us further than we had anticipated. Now, the first thing to observe is that if we can succeed in finding out such a sequence of cause and effect as the one we are in search of, somebody else may find out the same creative secret also. And then, by the hypothesis of the case, we should both be armed with an infallible power, and if we wanted to employ this power against each other, we should be landed in the impasse of a conflict between two powers, each of which was irresistible. Consequently, it follows that the first principle of this power must be harmony. It cannot be antagonizing itself from different centers. In other words, its operation in a simultaneous order at every point is the first necessity of its being. What we are in search of, then, is a sequence of cause and effect so universal in its nature as to include harmoniously all possible variations of individual expression. This primary necessity of the law for which we are seeking should be carefully borne in mind, for it is obvious that any sequence which transgresses this primary essential must be contrary to the very nature of the law itself, and consequently cannot be conducting us to the exercise of true creative power. What we are seeking, therefore, is to discover how to arrange things in such an order as to set in motion a train of causation that will harmonize our own conditions without antagonizing the exercise of a like power by others. This, therefore, means that all individual exercise of this power is the particular application of a universal power, which itself operates creatively on its own account, independently of these individual applications. And the harmony between the various individual applications is brought about by all the individuals bringing their own particular action into line with this independent creative action of the original power. It is, in fact, another application of Euclid's axiom that things which are equal to the same thing are equal to one another. So that though I may not know for what purpose someone may be using this creative power in Pekin, I do know that if he and I both realize its true nature, we cannot, by any possibility, be working in opposition to one another. For these reasons, having now some general idea of what it is we are in search of, we may commence our investigation by considering this common factor which must be at the back of all individual exercise of creative power. That is to say, the generic working of the universal creative principle. I'm going to stop there in the middle of Chapter 1 and continue tomorrow. Make it a great day, and bye for now.